In this video tutorial, we're going to go over how to add new label and group information to the sorter, as well as edit any existing information, label and group information as well. So let's say I just noticed I made a mistake and that this first bus instance didn't actually enter from the east, they entered from the west. The first thing I could do is just simply retype the label there. Then I could select this row, but typically it makes sense just to do Command A, select all the information in the sorter, and if I sync that information back or push it back, now let's hover over the first bus instance, and you can see the first label there on the timeline is actually west. So that's possible. Similarly, if I option click in any given cell here, or group cell, I can get a drop-down list of all the groups. So this first list are all the groups that have ever been associated with that timeline. In this case, I want to grab a new label from the enters group, and I don't know, let's make it come from the south this time. So I just added it. I didn't replace it, which is a good point to make. Let's just leave both of those labels on there. And then again, I'll select all, sync. Let's hover over the first bus instance. Now you can see I have a south and a west. Similarly, if let's say I delete everything from that particular cell, now sync back, it will actually just remove those labels from the instance in the timeline as well. So that's the first way you can control labels in the timeline from the sorter. Something else that might be useful is, let's say I want to add a label to instances in the timeline. It's more advantageous for me to look at the sorter in this spreadsheet style window, but the label that I want to add belongs to some group I haven't created yet. So I could click this new column button. Actually, I'm going to click any cell in this last row, because now when I click new column, it will add a column to the right of the selected cell. Now that I have this new column, I'm going to right click on the column number way at the top and make sure I choose group column. It's really important that you do this so that this new column actually treats the text we're about to enter as labels. Otherwise, the labels in these cells won't be categorized properly or grouped properly. So the new group, I don't know, I'm just gonna imagine I'm gonna call this new group safety. And let's say in this first instance, the bus does something unsafe. And in this one, the taxi does something safe. But again, I can add that information simply back to the timeline, simply by Command A, hit sync, and let's now hover over the first taxi instance. You can see the safe label way at the end, and you can see the unsafe label way at the end of this bus instance. So that's another nice thing you can do in this sorter, is just create labels and groups on the fly. One thing worth mentioning here is if, for example, we right click at the top of this column and hit delete column. So we just got rid of all those labels. Now let's do this, Command A and sync. A minute ago, remember that if I deleted an individual label from a group column and then synced, it actually removed the label. In this case, we got rid of the whole group from the sorter. So now that we just synced, let's hover over here, but you can see that the labels in this case still stay on the instances. So if you get rid of the entire group column, you won't lose all the labels. We do that with the thought that you might want to, edit your sorter in a particular way, but not lose the information in the timeline. You obviously can get that information back in the sorter just by regenerating it from the timeline. Similarly, in terms of groups, if, for example, I changed the name of this group to maneuvers with an S at the end, and let's say, for example, I just synced the first row here, the first instance in the bus row. You can see that group got changed to maneuvers with an S, but, for example, here, the first taxi instance still has the maneuver without the S as the group name. So it would take a select all sync. Now all the instances that ever belong to the maneuver group now belong to the maneuvers with an S group. Hope that helps. Thanks for watching.